Welcome back to another review, this time for the anime Kowloon Generic Romance. This anime had 13 episodes and was airing in spring of 2025. We have the synopsis, again, Annalist. Welcome to Kowloon Walled City, a dystopian townscape where the people are brimming with nostalgia and where the past, present, and future converge. Amidst the hidden emotions and extraordinary daily lives of the men and women working in its confines, a tale of romance begins to unfold for real estate agent Reiko Kujirai, one that feels as familiar as Kowloon itself. Now, this show was very surprising. Now, I feel like a lot of people went into the show because of the name, and even though romance is a focal point between Reiko and Kudo, it is not really what the show is about. We do have the romance part. The whole show is very mature. The romance is very mature, or at least tries to be. This whole show is more aimed at young adults to adults, which is already, a little bit surprising. We do see our characters as examples. They smoke. One of the things that is rarer in anime today, I feel like. As they both have like a job that they have to do. So, it feels a lot more mature, the settings, the characters that are involved, and how they behave. He is a lot more mature. Already more interesting because, it's a little bit rarer in today's anime world. Now, the point is that romance is a focal point, yes. However, there is a mystery aspect, a pretty big mystery aspect. And I feel like the name wouldn't really tell you that there's mystery involved. Right off the beginning, you get in the background, you get to hear like there's a pharmaceutical company and they have like the idea of a program that they're seemingly testing where they can upload your memory and you can then later retrieve those memories in case you get injured, you get into an accident, you lose your memories, you have a backup. Now that is the idea. They have like this plan. What exactly they want to do, we do not get to know. However, this is like in the background, even though this, I believe, plays in like the 80s or so. So what they plan is like future tech, even for us today. Already a little bit, I already raised my eyebrows on that. Then we find out our main character, Reiko. She does not have her memories. She lost her memories from before the summer, seemingly. And Kudo, it always felt like whenever they went out that he tried to, fish for like reactions or some knowledge from Reiko. There was a little bit of, normally they had a normal relationship. Everything was going well, but every now and then he would say something, or he would, he would just offer something, and it felt like he was expecting something in return. Not in the kinky way, but he was expecting to see a specific reaction or to hear something specific from Reiko. Now, this already, some ideas came to mind for me right then and there. However, that is one of these, the part of the mystery of this show. And, you can't really talk about that at the moment without spoiling. So, I keep it at that. The animation style seems fine. I mean, there's not a lot of action going on, so we don't really have to have big animation. Everything looks pretty good. We have a lot of different characters, as you see on the picture. A lot of different character types, how they behave, reason, etc., which is nice. We have the recreation of the walled city in the anime. Now, I only watched a documentary like a couple years ago about the walled city. I believe it got dismantled in China. So it seems like this is the idea about the walled city. I don't know how realistic the depiction is of the walled city. It is, as you see in the picture, some of the buildings. It is very muted colors. It does look. It has some rustic look, like not well maintained. Somewhat. It doesn't look like it would break down, but it looks like it already was there for like a long time, and seemingly built on top of each other, buildings on top of buildings. It has that specific look that is similar to what I remember of the documentary. Otherwise, again, the romance and the show itself very mature seemed. The mystery, can't really tell you about that at this point. I am going to go into it a little bit more later on. So at this point, just romance, some slice of life. You could probably say drama. We can even see what is AniLinks giving it as tags. We have drama, mystery, romance, sci-fi, slice of life. Yep. Mystery, clearly. Romance, yep. Sci-fi because of the future tech kind of thing. Slice of life I can see, and drama because if you have romance, you probably have drama. AniList gave it 73%. Interesting. My anime list has it at 7.46. I would say, after having watched it all, I would give it a 9 out of 10. I would definitely recommend this one. It is one of those shows in the season. This one was very surprising, and if it piques your fancy a little bit, a little bit more mature romance, some mystery aspect, this one is definitely worth a little check. Now, from here on, I do want to talk a little bit more about the mystery, so spoilers ahead. Again, spoilers. Now, it is very interesting. So, very early on, it became clear that Reiko is not Reiko. She looks very similar to the Reiko that Kudo knows. However, she does not behave the same way. Also, we find out that the pharmaceutical company has more or less taken the job of dismantling the city because something happened. We don't really get to know much, but something happened in the city. They then decided, hey, we go and take down the city as to try to cover something up. That is pretty clear. I don't really know what exactly happened. Because we get a lot of information, we get a lot of these characters. We find out, hey, this seemingly is this whole city, because it got torn down, is not real, and that it is more or less the imagination of Kudo keeping the city alive. We find out Reiko died. She more or less committed suicide. Or so we got told. We got told that Kudo killed her because he has a guilty conscience. We also get to know only specific people can see this city or this illusionary city. And we also get to know that you can't really, everything you do in the city, you can't really take outside. There are a lot of little bits and pieces that, revolves around the city. Seemingly, the big little, prism in the sky, that is what the mystery revolves around. Seemingly, this is the object the pharmaceutical company wanted to use to upload the memories into and then later download. Now, for some reason, it interacted with Kudo and then decided to replicate the walled city before it got torn down. And we have a lot of side stuff. We do see our characters at the background. We do get to explore all of these characters in some capacity. Now, some of these characters, as example, Reiko, she died. This is more or less a replica that Kudo recreated. Kudo is normal, and we also find out a lot of these people, they exist as a copy inside of the walled city and the real one outside the city. Now, the copy seemingly cannot exit the city, but the originals can come into the city. And then, interesting stuff happens, because if the original enters the city, the copy inside the city disappears, which is very interesting. I don't know what happens if the original leaves the city. Does the copy reappear again? We don't really get to know those infos. However, we know this all revolves around Kudo and his perception. Long story short, we get a lot of background story about these characters, especially this guy, because he is the more or less heir of the pharmaceutical company. He's coming in, he's doing, the pharmaceutical company is trying to research how this happened, because we find out the ideas they had with the prism, which is called generic Terra, Gene Terra, it's called. The idea to upload the memory and then download the memory did not work. Uploading memory worked fine, but downloading memory did not work at all. So the whole project did not work out. However, for some reason, Kudo, the combination with the prism and Kudo worked, and they don't know why. They wanted to research that. There are some reasons, because everyone here has problems with their life in some capacity. We do find out why people can enter. We do also get to know somewhat the mystery behind Reiko, because shortly before Reiko died, Kudo proposed to her, and she was like, I'm going to tell you, at the end of the month what my answer is. It did seem like she was willing. And again, now, this is a whole spoiler section, so spoiler, gonna talk about the ending as well. So we get back and forth. It turns out that somehow we did hear. So this guy, he's the son of the head of the pharmaceutical company. That had a son that died. Now, he adopted this guy, and this guy was like, okay, I'm working for you. However, you have to, pay for my mother's medical bills, as far as I remember. But the stepdad, whatever, the head of the pharmaceutical company, he did not honor his end of the deal and did not, keep up with the treatment of his mother. So he is mad and he wants to take revenge. Now this guy, the gray-haired guy, is his best friend, and he was like, hey, I'm on your side, let's take revenge. So presumably, if I remember correctly, what he wanted to do was recreate the son of his stepdad, and I guess kill him or whatever, and plunge him into despair. Something along those lines, if I remember correctly. That is why he's in here, and he's researching how we got the replication of the gene terror, how it worked, can we replicate that, because he wants to take revenge. Later on, he doesn't get his revenge, more or less. He doesn't, because stuff happens to his dad, so he can't really, fulfill his dream. Now, at the same time, we get to know the green-haired guy. He has a relationship with our, stepson. But this is mostly, like a bonus area. It's the same with this little character. We get to know more about this one. We do see the real one coming in. However, even though the real person came in, the replica still existed, because the perception of Kudo did not really count them as the same person. So this is the point, we get a lot of, side stories that are more or less explaining the rules that exist here. The same with this girl. This girl did not exist here. She came in from outside. This is why later on we get to, see, okay, it seems like if you have regret, you can see the city and then enter the city. So she's coming in because she has like problems with her mom. Her mom is famous actor, and naturally, in many cases, seemingly, as the children of actors have sometimes a bad childhood because the parents want them to also act or be an actress. However, she's mostly in here to act as the best friend of Reiko and to get some more background rules. As example, she can leave and she can come back. However, when she comes back and she eats or drinks food or drink from the city, she more or less loses the memories from the outside in some capacity. So there is some kind of altering if you take food or drink from the city itself. There's some mind-altering stuff where you can't really remember stuff regarding the gene terror or the whole of the city. Like the background that it is a fake city, it is not real. All of that you seemingly lose. So most of these characters are, showing us some of the rules, some of the background story. We later find out, gene terror with Kudo, it is all about him. If he, whatever he's doing, if he stops replicating the city, he seemingly is aware that the city gets replicated because at the end of August it resets to the 1st of July. It is always summer, and our main guy Kudo, he seemingly knows that. He knows that this is always repeating, and he also said that everything is a replication here, but Reiko is different. She is just different. And this culminates in us finding out how the original Reiko died. Now it is a little bit, vague. So we find out she bought some drugs. And those drugs seemingly are the code medicine that the pharmaceutical company had. However, that one got recalled because there's some problem with the medicine. Seemingly, if you take too many of them, you can overdose and die. It also can result in hallucinations. So whatever the case, we find out Kudo at the end of the month was trying to meet Reiko and found her having taken too many of the drugs and overdosed, essentially. Now the problem is there's some vagueness because we find out she had like a conversation with an old woman that the old woman told her that that she is gambling with her life. So whatever she was doing, she was accepting that it could result in her dying, which it did. However, whenever you gamble, you have an upside. You don't gamble death with death. There was an upside. Now, what the upside was, we don't really know. My assumption is just whatever she wanted as a result would have been for the better. And it seemed like she was open for, living her life with Kudo. Now, I read that maybe it has some connection with her insomnia. We did find out that Reiko is insomniac. She had to take medicine for that. Or she would have needed to take medicine for that. She, I believe, visited a doctor for that at some point. And maybe this was like an all-out gamble. She takes everything, she survives, and maybe is not insomniac anymore, or whatever else she wanted to get rid of, or she dies. Sadly, she died, which resulted in Kudo, getting a meltdown more or less, understandably, and that then resonated with Gene Terra, and that resulted in the city. So this is like, there's a lot of mystery here, which naturally I explained. And the story is very interesting. It was a very interesting story. The characters were very interesting. We had like the coming to age of Reiko, coming, accepting, hey, I can't be Reiko that Kudo wants me to be, because she falls in love with Kudo. And her first thing, as she finds out, hey, I'm not the real Reiko, was to try to imitate the real Reiko. Now she had some success with that, but she found out, hey, it can't really work. She can't really be the Reiko that Kudo wants her to be, and it's not really who she is. So she starts, diverging more from the Reiko Kudo knows, because she wants to be her own person. And this is mostly the background of the whole show, that, everyone has to let go of their past regrets and start, trying to be more themselves. All of these, Reiko starts being more herself instead of being like the Reiko Kudo knows. We have Yumo or so. Her name, I totally forgot. Yume. She accepts, hey, I'm the daughter of a famous actress, but I'm not like her. I'm myself. However, I am, they always say my ultimate self. And she is accepting, hey, even if I take stuff from my mom, if I take some of their stuff, I don't have to reject everything. I can still be myself and still let some of her into my life. The same with this character, trying to be their own self and rejecting specific parts. The same with all of these characters. He just lived for revenge instead of for himself, being himself, living a happy life. He is the only one that didn't really have any regret at the beginning, which is also one of the points where we get to find out how you can enter the city. It was a very interesting story. It started off as romance, and you are like, hey, Kowloon generic romance, let's take a look. And it went into a full-blown mystery, which was very surprising. I really like the story.